Welcome back to another episode to What If Civilization Started Over. Now, in last episode, we saw the rise of the light blue country, the Vikings, and we saw the collapse of the blue country and just generally more expansion and whatnot, all that good stuff. But we also saw this country pop up. The old Egyptian country popped up again. And well, spoilers, a coalition form against the Empire. Um, so, let's get into the scenario, why not? So, first off, the Empire was already prepared for a war against the Circle Team Alliance, or the former Circle Team Alliance before the coalition formed. So, the Purple Team and these three boys. So, they already had troops over here. They were actually prepared to declare war on them. No, not this way around. But they also had troops along the Roman border because, well, that's their strongest enemy. They did not expect this boy, the light blue country, to join in on this. So, or the two red countries. So, the first movement in the war is actually going to be up here in the purple team. Their capital is right here on the border, and, well, it falls almost immediately. Most of their government officials moved up to probably this city, or maybe one of these cities. This city up here. Because they kind of expected their capital be taken pretty quickly in a war, which they were kind of planning this, whatever rebellion did break out, so they moved more troops into here. They move more and more troops up into the purple team. Now, the next movement is actually going to be down here in this guy's, the light blue team. But remember, these guys were kind of up here, and then they moved down here, but so they realized realistically they're not getting their homeland back, so. But they still join in the war because, well, the Empire's bad, right? Right? Anyway. This country, well, because there isn't many troops over here, they get to push in pretty heavily. So, they try and encircle these troops, but they realize what they were doing, and they start reorganizing. But while they're reorganizing, the purple team comes right after them, and eventually they set up a defensive line along this line. Speaking of the purple team, they want their old capital back right here. So, because, well, it was their old capital. So, they charge in immediately. And this was where, honestly, a lot of their troops were, so. And then eventually they are actually able to recapture their old capital pretty quickly. And they start pushing up northwards. They also come down here and take the city. They didn't expect this many troops all piled up right here. So, yeah, they have to do more rearrangement, which means the purple team comes in after them. The lime team over here. They also start chasing after them. And while their plan is to cut across the Caucasians with help with the red team, the Stark red team, cut this section off from this part, and cut this part off so they can take all this part and they can focus on this land. That's their plan. Blue team's plan, kind of along with this purple team's plan is to push northwards up here and capture the Arabian Peninsula. The Romans is to get down here to the Baltic, start capturing all this. These guys' team is just to retake Crimea. Basically, the purple team is to just wreak vengeance on all of this. Speaking of the Romans are going to be doing their next move. Doing the next move. They actually start pushing up into this area. there's a lot of troops condensed in this short parallel, and well, the Empire has to spread them all across the land, and Purple Team only has to spread them across 2 fronts. And well, the African front will be kind of jointed with this one. So they don't focus as much in here, but they take this much land before just setting up a defensive line and focusing up here. They eventually take many provinces and states of the Empire, and even taking this entire northern section. They push southwards, and well, eventually they're stopped. The Red Team. The Red Team, well, their main goal is, once again, get Crimea. Push southwards, gain Crimea. Are they going to do this? Well, they're going to head south. They start heading south, and eventually they cut it off. Although it's not going to be too big because, well, ships. The rebels, they start pushing back, but the Empire's mostly able to take part of it. A small rebel takes this, and eventually they cut off Africa from... Eventually they're able to take Africa, cut off Africa from the rest of the Empire. That's not going to be fun. And also they meet up with this thing and start heading down the Red Sea. And this peninsula. Now, looking at it, the Empire is getting beat kinda badly. Oh, I forgot about the Mint team up here. They head south. They start heading south, like the Red Team, to cut off basically Crimea from the rest. Eventually they do, and they take these two. Take these 2 major cities and start pushing inwards. What they also start pushing in over here, liberating a lot of this mostly freshly colonized land. Now, the Empire is getting, well, pretty badly hit right now. They are spread incredibly thin. Let's be honest here. There's no way in a million years they are ever gonna win this battle. So what are they gonna do? Well, they realize the biggest threat is the Romans. So as long as they can open an unexpected front against the Romans, which the Roman stability along with the Empire is definitely on the lower side. So as long as they can open up a new front on the Roman side, they can win. They can hopefully get the Romans out of the war, get these guys out of the war, and focus fully over here. So who hates the Romans the most? These guys, the 3 French team countries. Now, so the Empire's gonna approach them as like, hey, we're in the middle of war, we're kinda getting beaten badly. But if you join us on our side, you can A, get revenge against the Romans, which most of their forces are focused over here on my front. So you can hopefully beat them back pretty badly before they notice they're getting hit in the back of the head with a 2x4. And if you do that, I can live on. It's a win-win situation right here. And they're like, yeah, anything to kill the Romans. So, to make it simple, we're turning the economic alliance yellow and moving this, copying and pasting this over here. So, the Empire got itself an ally. That's a bit big. Yeah, we'll make it a little bit bigger. There you go. Oh yeah, we'll place it right here. That's where hopefully now the fighting will be. At least hopefully for the Empire. Now back to conflict. Well, with these 3 countries joining in, the Romans are going to be thrown by quite a surprise when this country starts pushing in and taking lots of land. Remember this guy, I don't actually know if this country is part of the top 10 or not. I don't think so. No, it's not. None of the countries in Western Europe that would join is in the top 5 or 10. Definitely not top 5. Anyway, The Northern Iberian country starts pushing in, and they are able to do lots of damage over here. Eventually, with all these, remember, their stability is low. A new rebel group is actually going to pop up. We'll make it a dark gold. Actually, no, we'll make it... Yeah, we'll make it this color. Sure. A rebel group pops up down here in the south of France. Or France, yes. South of Spain. And it's a pretty big able rebellion group. This area especially feels like they are very this group in particular feels like they're very disjointed from the rest of the Roman Union. I actually like the Roman Union better. I'm going to be calling it the Roman Union because, the Union. Anyway, they are the farthest point of it, and this is kind of why the gold team moved the capital to here, more centralized to the empire. To hopefully stop this from happening. But, they're still going to do it. Now, green team, dark green team, in joint operations with its olive green brother is going to push down south, down here, in hopes of cutting the Romans off from the Iberians. Now, the Romans have a very strong navy because their empire is very distinct, and they only have a thin corridor right here, and also this place was colonized before this was. So even if they do cut it off, it won't be the biggest deal for the Romans, but still not good. But eventually they're able to push this, and, well, they start moving troops over here, and, well, the Empire starts pushing them back, even recapturing the city. Capturing both of these major cities, and almost pushing them back to the border. Third, the Green Team Alliance is doing their job very well. Slight situation. Dark Red Team, well, they're now pushing in, and they're implementing their plan very well. They are native to this region, so they know exactly how to fight in it. They take this major city. Most people in these cities are very happy that their former country is coming back to save them. Which, well, I guess at this point it would be the ancestors, but you know what I mean. So, eventually this country splits off the Caucasians. And, well, the empire split into 1, 2, 3, 4 different areas. That's not good in a war. The red and minting Ukrainian countries start pushing into southern Ukraine, capturing the first Crimean city, but remember this being the true center point of civilization. That was kind of the goal of the empire, to be the true country, the only country, But they start taking more and more of Crimea, but they hold out at the first city. They eventually push in and capture the city. They move in over here and take this. They land over here, but are halted by what's left over here. Eventually, this front soon collapses very rapidly. It's not getting enough supplies from the homeland via trade routes, via the ocean routes, and the red team is really pushing in hard over here. The red team pushes in and takes a lot of this land, and the mint team pushes in and takes over this land, which is very newly colonized. Eventually, this section actually breaks out an open rebellion. It's going to be brown for now. I will definitely change that. Now, with that front collapsing, they can focus in on the Empire. They can focus in more on the Empire instead of doing over here. They start pushing in, but their forces are very much halted. The Empire evacuated, actually, these amount of troops. The Empire starts taking a lot of land up here. lots of land. The strategy of the Empire is really a lot. They start pushing in, and they even push in. They even push into the red team a tiny bit, and even starts capturing back Crimea. Oh my god, what the hell? And even, no. Can I select the right color? No. There we go. They start pushing back into Crimea, and they start pushing heavily into the red team, almost taking their capital, but they are halted right there, as both the red and mint teams are kind of pushing back. But at this point, the Empire's pushes in. They encircle this city, but the thing about uncolonized land is, well, you can just go around. So they colonize, they move troops through this land, and they reconnect up with the city before the Empire takes it. And, well, they make a spearhead to the last major city, knowing that the government is in there. They take it, and the Bulgarian team surrenders over to the Empire. That was very quick. And, well, now the purple team was really cocky. They thought they could do it. They were number 6 after all. Without Sprint, then they thought they could surely do it. But yeah, the Empire had a bigger grudge than they thought about this. Well, but because they did focus in so much on the Bulgarian team, purple team's actually able to take over a lot of their old former land. Purple team starts taking up the Persian Gulf up here. Eventually, they completely take it, and they start pushing outwards. The blue team over here starts taking lots of land, capturing this major city, but it's a lot of desert. So they start pushing in, but it's not very effective. Now, the Romans are kind of collapsing internally. Their own puppet state that they did, it breaks away from them. And, well, starts invading them. That is way too similar, it needs to be lighter. And even starts invading them. They take these provinces, and yeah, you can really tell how much the Romans are just collapsing internally. But then take actually a small break from the war to go over here to India. Now, India is watching this happening to their west, and they're like, whoa, that's not fun. But they're also supplying, well, I guess they won't be supplying, it's a little bit too early for this. But anyway, the point I'm going to get to is that the Indians, they have a disease spreading in their newly conquered land from the blue team, out here in the east. And, well, it is slowly creaking up their way through India. Slowly. Very slowly. But they don't make an effort to try and stop the virus. They do realize the virus is killing, but if they close down their borders, that means they make less money. Now, of course, the trade route isn't connected up with them. There are still smaller trade routes over here. So, the disease is killing a lot of people. Now, the pink and green teams over here, they stop all trade with the Indian team because they know what it is. Also, the green team colonizes Sri Lanka. But the Indian team's population out here in the west is doing, they've mostly stopped it from spreading to the major cities, but it is getting in there. It is very slow, but it is very much going in here. There are some cases in the orange team's area, but only 1 or 2. There's maybe like 10 or 20 in all major cities in Western India, and there are thousands over here in Eastern Europe. India. Now, all these former blue team countries are not trading with them anymore because they saw the sightings, they saw how infectious and deadly it was, and they closed it down immediately. So back to the war after all the shenanigans down in India. This purple team country starts pushing in, not that much. That's pushing in very heavily. Same with the lime team. They're now fully focused over here, wanting to take back at least their former capital. All these countries really want their former capital, but the lime team, or the light blue team. They attempt to make a spearhead across, but at this point, this is when these fronts kind of collapsed. So, where this front collapsed, so now they're able to pull more supplies from over here. Also, the Roman team side has collapsed. So now they have a lot more resources to their play, so they're actually able to hold most of these teams. At this point, the old empire is like, alright, we gotta get Rome completely out of this war. They're almost gone. We gotta push them out. So they fully take this back. They pull a lot of resources that were used over here, making it so the red team can actually push back from their capital, giving them more room to breathe and even begin pushing back. They realize that the empire absolutely crippled the freaking old purple team, all government officials in here. There would be no hope in saving this country. So they kind of ignore it for now, and they push back over here into their old territory, chasing them back, but they're able to hold a front line like this. The red team actually pushes into the purple team and takes some of the land for itself, but, remember, this land is anarchy. There's no saving it. To the Romans. The Empire starts pushing into the Romans. That's an absolutely horrendous color. That's slightly better. So they start pushing into the Romans, and they start taking a lot of land. The gold team, part of the Union, is looking at what is happening up here and over here, and they're like, how the hell are we getting beaten back so easily by the green team countries, the Empire? We're not that spread out that thin. Now at this point, most of the front lines have been halted from all these countries, but they still stand. How were they able to even get this far? Now, the Empire is pushing in. So they break away from it completely. The gold team, the southern Italian country, or the southern Roman country, comes back in full force. I think they had Corsica, or southern Corsica. They also had this. But at this point, this area has been refigured, where only this state would be considered a gold team territory. And it doesn't matter, because, oh no, your African colony just broke away. This also allows for the Romans to be pushed out. They're African. But it doesn't really matter, because these guys are wreaking absolute havoc as rebellion spur all the way out here. Rebellion spurs in almost every single major city. Eventually, they connect up with the main one. These two don't, because they're kind of far away, but they start pushing forward and outwards, and eventually in hopes of eventually joining them. But who knows if they may go off and form their own country. Now, this is looking really bad for the Empire. I won't deny. It's also looking bad for the Romans. So, what are they gonna do? What's the Empire gonna do? Seeing that the gold team just exited the war, exited the thing, and are not fighting them, they start their goal is to push down, take the capital, send these troops over here and over here. Now, will this work? We'll see. They start pushing in. Well, over Great Roman defense, they are able to not completely cut off this area, but the green teams are able to push it even further into their old territory where they're mostly great with open arms, pushing them back all the way to this point. Now, at this point, the Empire is trying to convince these two to join, and they're like, no, we're peaceful. Now, go F off. And they're like, okay, fine, rude. At this point, with this happening and the gold team leaving the Union, the Northern Iberian Lime team is really pushing it now, and they make a goal, and they attempt to try and cut off. And they cut off Catalonia from the rest of Iberia. At this point, more rebellions spur in major cities. Eventually, this entire front collapses to rebellion. Joint operations from the former puppet state and the green teams make it so Catalonia's fully annexed. And, well, the Romans, who just kind of beat the booties of all these countries last episode, is, well, getting their booties beat by them this episode. Eventually, the Empire is able to cut off the Romans, and this completely collapses. They start marching down south. And the gold team, seeing this and not really wanting the Empire to capture the capital, they actually push into the Romans to save it and capture the city. Just making sure the Romans are not able to take it. Making sure the Empire cannot take it. Now, will they keep this land? Probably not. Eventually, the Romans surrender over to the Empire. And an astonishing feat, and really against all odds, the Empire was able to defeat the Romans, along with help from the green teams. Now, are they able to send these guys back fast enough? Your rebellion just took all of Africa. God damn, thunder ruining my recording. Anyway, the purple team pushes further and further more into the Empire. Oh, no. The green team pushes and eventually captures their former capital, and they start pushing up north, and eventually a lot of this front collapses. Now, seeing this, they realize, okay, we're probably not going to be able to get the troops in there fast enough. So we're going to set up a defensive line. Like something like this. So they start pulling troops back all the way up to this line. Troops are ordered to stay across the line. Eventually, after very months, joint operation from the brilliant and purple team captures all the way up here. At this point, troops from this side come over here to help, but right before one of the twin cities is captured, a massive blow to the Empire. At this point, the brown team was able to capture this, and, well, another rebellion spurks. Hello, welcome back, orange team. Across here, and even technically over in the city. The orange team was one of the first, and, well, they always hated it, and the orange team is back. So they start taking over here. They unique the 3 cities up, and they start pushing down. At this point, the Empire realizes it's lost. There's no way they're surviving they're going to be able to survive this. Both the red teams push down here. But they are quickly halted with troops coming in through here. And, well, to be honest, it's actually a standstill. Before rebellion sparks over here, in the far reaches over here. Yugoslavia and this area rebels away from the Empire. At this point, they realize, just hold back. Maybe, what if we surrendered? If we surrendered, maybe they'll allow us to live. Maybe they'll show some mercy. And they realize, no, we gotta fight to the last breath. So eventually, rebellions all across this area capture all of this. Besides the capital, this area, the capital is safe. Eventually, after a multitude of months, all of what stands of the empire is this. And all these islands would be captured. But the empire realizes with rebels closing into their capital from both sides, they realize they failed, and eventually they surrender over to their people. Not to any of the invasion countries, specifically their people. This war, well, it was inevitable, let's be honest. But the Empire fought back till its last breath. Quite literally. Now how does this go? The gold team, I don't know. Now, we'll get into the peace treaty. Now, we're going to be splitting this part up into multiple parts. This is the new borders of Western Europe. We can see that the Lime team took a lot of land. We see the formation of 3 new countries down here in southern Iberia. We see the rebellion break up. This team took 1 province. The dark green team took back a lot of their former land. The capitals are going to be so. This bluey Iberian country is going to be, capital's going to be Gibraltar. This country is going to be right here, and this country's capital is going to be right here. Now, we're going to move on to the Yugoslav and the rest of the Roman Union's territory changes. That's going to be looking like this. This is the new borders of the Roman Union and even a bit of the Empire. We can see that, well, the Roman Union got very disfigured, especially in the Northern Roman purple team half. Funnily enough, the purple team did get a little bit of land. But, that's besides the point. Let me actually turn off state so you can see this a bit better. But, the capitals are going to be like this. One of them actually already has the capital because, that was the capital of the Romans, and it's just going to keep the capital. So, this light blue country is going to be right here. This orangey one's going to be right here. The cyan team's going to be right there. And, well, and the gold team's capital still there. Boop, bap. That's the new capital, actually. Bip-de-boo, gapagoo. Now, we're going to move on to the rest of the Balkan area, and also up here. We're going to cover this area, basically. So, it's going to look something like this. And this is what the borders of the northern part of the empire looks like. Now, we see a familiar face, the Bulgarian team. Which is saying, like, wait, wasn't the purple team the Bulgarian team? Well, purple team's government literally collapsed. So, yeah, that wasn't going to work again. So, capitals. The Greek team's capital is going to be Athens. Bulgarian team's capital is going to be the old capital, which is this one. The new Bulgarian capital is going to be this one. The red team actually moves their capital back down to their old one down here in Crimea. This country's capital is going to be moved right here, or going to be placed right here. This tan capital is going to be right here. Next, we'll move on to the core provinces of the empire. This is where we're actually going to probably see the most amount of countries, and yeah. So, it's going to look something like this is what the empire looks like now. The Middle East is, well, very, very different. We have tons of new countries to play around with, and, well, plenty of capitals not in place. So, capitals are going to be here, 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 one of the Twin Cities, right here, right here, right here, and I don't know what the capital for this country was, so we'll go right here. This is the new borders of the Mediterranean and the Middle East. So many different new countries. Oh, hey, this country's capital is right here. But the new borders of the Mediterranean and the Middle East are nearly unrecognizable to what they were before. The borders of the Mediterranean and the Middle East are almost completely unrecognizable compared to last episode. And we're not going to leave it off here. We're going to have one more event of video. We're going to see the Vikings doing something. They're going to be expanding even more. They're going to connect up with Poland, which defeats the purpose of the border state, but you know what? Flip the border state. Goes around this lake and takes over all of this peninsula and the rest of the Nordic region. The Vikings are definitely now number one. They have built their empire out of ice and stone, and, well, they've been kind of chill up here. But maybe it won't last. Maybe it will. They colonize these islands, and they even come up here, and they come up here, land on Iceland, and colonize it a little bit. And that's gonna be the end of What If Civilization Started Over. We're gonna be getting more with that disease thing down here. The next episode, I swear. Not much colonization this episode. I will actually probably clean up this border a bit in between the episodes. But, well, let's be honest, there's a lot more interesting stuff that happened. The collapse of the empire. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see ya in the next episode of the Era of Instability.